Do you guys like Deltarune? Today, I have 3 mini-theories that are not too consequential, but I think they are still interesting. These are not really long enough or in-depth enough to be a full video on their own. The ramifications and revelations that come if these are true are not too important, but I still think that these are some cool ideas. Ralsei's hat form, dark form, blackface form, whatever you want to call it, has always been interesting to me. When we first meet Ralsei, he hides himself in a spooky robe, but then he just takes it off. He's hiding his appearance, but even then, this isn't his real appearance, he's still hiding his true appearance and only reveals his real face at the end of the chapter. Why? This scene is framed in a way that is a reveal. And for players of Undertale, this is kind of a reveal. The fact that Ralsei looks like Azrael is definitely important. But I think that Ralsei was never supposed to take off his hat and show his true face in the first place. Everything that shows Ralsei, other than Ralsei himself and dialogue, shows him in his hat form. The battle UI, the prophecy, and Tenna's game. The only time there is something like this of Ralsei's mentioned outside of direct character dialogue that doesn't show him in his dark form is Tenna's Ralsei plush, but there's 2 explanations for this. One, it's a joke, who cares, it's funny. The other is an in-universe explanation, and that is because we signed away our likenesses to Queen in Chapter 2, when Ralsei already took off his hat, this allows merchandise jokes like this to be diegetic. I believe that Ralsei wasn't supposed to take off his hat and show his true face, but he only did so as part of his arc of gaining more self-confidence and starting to become a quote-unquote real person, instead of a Darkener whose life doesn't matter, someone who isn't real. He doesn't think he deserves a real room with real stuff, but through talking to us, he realizes that we see him as a true friend and a real person, and he starts to allow himself to have his own interests. This is somewhat related to the trans Ralsei theory, which I don't really want to get too into here. Although I agree with most of the points for this theory, I really don't see Ralsei transitioning on screen. And then we have a scene where Ralsei goes, "Yes, Susie, my pronouns are now she, her." Although it would be very funny to see a bunch of bigots get pissed off if this was to happen. I can't believe they made Deltarune woke! No! Ralsei is supposed to be the way that the prophecy describes, wearing a dark cloak and being a prince, even if that is not what Ralsei wants for themselves. As Ralsei hangs out with Susie and Chris more, they start to discover for themselves who they really are and who they want to be, instead of what the prophecy wants them to be. And this all starts with taking off the hat at the end of Chapter 1. Haha, eggs are funny. Egg is such a funny word. The concept of eggs are just funny. What a funny shape, haha. Look, Temmie have egg. Funny Undertale reference, haha, Egg's husband. What's the deal with the forgotten man and eggs? Toby has gone on record saying that he likes to write a bunch of funny lines to make the one serious line hit much harder, and I think that the eggs are a perfect example of this. Eggs are funny, but for some reason unknown to us right now, eggs are important imagery, especially when it comes to Chris and the Forgotten Man. We don't really know what the eggs represent, either literally or metaphorically, but it has something to do with whoever the Forgotten Man is, and it's definitely related to something in Chris's past, but what? When I was replaying Chapter 3, I noticed something that I have never heard anyone point out before.
Groovy and never gloomy. You can't get it from an egg.
Tenna, what the f*** does this mean? I swear this line actually has importance because of all the egg imagery in this game. Tenna, what do you know about eggs, and why would you be telling Chris that whatever you offer, you cannot get from eggs? Okay, so looking at this is clearly a Pippus, which ties Pippus into eggs as well. It is implied that Tenna and Spamton had a Pippus child or something together. This scene is a metaphor for Tenna and Spamton's divorce, where Tenna looks after their child. So eggs, Pippus, and children are all linked together, which makes sense. Baby birds hatch out of eggs. Eggs are commonly used to represent children in a lot of other media. Tenna cares a lot for Chris and wants them to feel better. Perhaps Tenna knows about Chris's trauma that the eggs represent and wants to be there for Chris to act as escapism so Chris doesn't need to think about whatever the eggs symbolize. Tenna wants Chris to forget about the eggs, but if we explore the Dark Worlds in an unconventional manner, then we can find the Forgotten Man. The Forgotten Man gives Chris eggs, something that represents a child or just childhood. Could the Forgotten Man be trying to remind Chris of their childhood, and more so something that happened in their childhood that they are repressing? Could they be trying to help Chris with trauma related to... Eggs and image_friend, I believe, are both related to Chris's childhood trauma. We don't know the full deal with the eggs, and we definitely don't know the full deal with friend. Friend and the pink and yellow colors, they just show up everywhere. Spamton, Mike, John Mantle, Chapter 5 allegedly, Susie and Noelle, and Caddy? Okay, let's slow down a minute. What is friend? This face and the pink and yellow eyes have shown up so many times. Clearly there is some importance to them. Image Friend is very similar to something from Amori, and I won't spoil that game here, but if you've played it, then you know what I'm talking about. Toby Fox has said that someone else is making a game very, very similar to Deltarune, and I think that the similar game is Amori. Both feature a quiet protagonist that secretly carry around a knife, both games have heavy themes of escapism, and a lot of childhood trauma. But we don't need to talk about the thing that Cat really likes that hopefully Toby Fox also isn't into. But back to Deltarune. I think that whatever Chris's Ayo the pizza here moment is somehow connected to both eggs and Image Friend. I believe that whatever happened in Chris's past is the reason that they are working with Carol and the Knight, either because of guilt or blackmail. Chris is somehow at least partially responsible for whatever happened to Des, and is working with Carol to find her, .ogg. Whatever Chris did, both the eggs and Friend exist as reminders of what happened. The Forgotten Man also is probably connected, and is probably more connected to the egg part of whatever happened, and I think that the friend part of whatever happened is somehow connected to the prophecy. The Tale of Hell, Roots, the Ring of Heaven's Call, all this is connected to whatever friend is. The pink and yellow motif that is connected to friend also is likely to be explained more in Chapter 5, in the literal field of pink and yellow, but right now we can't fully understand what it means. We don't know what pink and yellow thing is the origin of this motif, and what other pink and yellow things are just referencing the origin of the pink and yellow. What I mean is, we don't know the patient zero of pink and yellow. If, for example, the origin of the pink and yellow motif is a sort of Schrodinger's second hero with Susie and Noelle, then all of the other pink and yellow imagery exists to reference Susie and Noelle. Friend, Spamton, Mike, all of the pink and yellow imagery is referencing the prophecy with Susie and Noelle. But Susie and Noelle's opposite colors could also just be referencing whatever else the true origin of pink and yellow is. We don't know. But I do have an idea of something that could explain something about the strange pink and yellow cat we keep seeing, and that is this other pink and yellow cat with ties to Chris. Caddy has to be important. Her dialogue very clearly implies a close connection and history with Chris, as well as some ominous foreshadowing relating to Susie. She's also a cat with pink and yellow accents in her color scheme, and has ties to Chris, specifically summoning a demon with them. Is Image Friend the demon that was summoned, and its appearance is based on Caddy because Caddy summoned it? And then after Chris and Caddy accidentally let the demon loose, it caused Des's disappearance? I don't know. Something along those lines is my best guess for whatever Chris's trauma is. We can't say for certain what happened in Chris's past, but I'm confident it has something to do with Caddy. It somehow involves the origin of Image Friend, whatever the Forgotten Man is, and whatever happened to Des. I don't really have a good idea for what the eggs are or what they could represent, other than that they are somehow tied to Chris's trauma, and somehow Tenna knows about this and wants to help Chris through escapism of the TV world Dark Fountain. Caddy, and also Jockington? Caddy and Jockington also have to be important. Caddy for reasons I've explained, but Jockington, because I believe his cryptic-ass dialogue that foreshadows events has to mean something, and there has to be some explanation for the stroke he's having in Chapter 4. So, to recap, Ralsei was never supposed to take off his hat and show his true goat boy form. Tenna knows about Chris's trauma and the eggs, and Friend is something and represents Chris's trauma in the same way, and is also related to Caddy somehow. Let me know what you think of these mini-theories, and while you're down there in the comments, fix up this graph, please. I don't really know how many more Deltarune theory videos I can make before the new chapter's release. That just won't be the same thing as other theory videos. Toby, please release the rest of the game soon, please. I just can't take it anymore, please!